Alright, so I know I'm late on this, but thank you all so much for 7,000 subscribers. It honestly means everything to me knowing that my content is entertaining enough to where you guys subscribe. I know I said I would release my 7K special, which, in case nobody heard, I'm gonna be talking about the second horrendous Fireman Sam movie known as Heroes of the Storm. However, there was another video in the works as of the announcement of this, which is the video you're watching right now. So, before I get into what you're about to witness, thank you again for 7,000 subscribers, and let's see if I can reach 10,000 before summer is over. Now, let me talk about why you're all watching this in the first place. A while back, I made a post asking who you would all like me to tear into next. Surprisingly, it was Rodrick who ended up with the most votes. Specifically him from the 2011 movie, Rodrickrules. However, due to this movie being so long, I asked 3 of my lovely subscribers and 2 other well-known YouTubers to talk about particular scenes in this film. Now, I've always wanted to make a video about this movie, but it was too busy at the time making LBB Can Stuff It and roasting Thomas into a crisp. Compilation video will be out on the 12th. And due to me slowly shifting into my own style of content, which means not being a Matnev clone, I was wondering how this whole thing would even work. So after a lot of voicing and editing everything, it's finally here, and this is my longest video yet. And no, I am not counting the Norman compilation. So before we get into this, make sure to subscribe and hit that like button because it helps my channel out a lot. Also, when I reach 10,000 subscribers, I will finally unveil this mystery brat I've been hyping up. Now without wasting any more time, let's head on in. Hey everyone. So, before this video starts, make sure to hit that like and subscribe button and also comment down below what other suggestions you'd like me to do next. The entire Heffley family shows up to the roller rink because it's some back-to-school event. Rodrick complains about having to be there, which honestly, in a room full of toddlers and Tiara's rejects and Norman if he was an actual mistake, I'd agree with him. Rowley finds his way to Greg and instantly hits him with his magic boner, which honestly, is still more entertaining than the garbage kids are showing off today. Greg tells Rodrick about the horrendous summer he had, which, according to 2011 middle school logic, consists of being in red swim trunks and being covered in toilet paper. The good old times. Fergie notices them and decides to be friendly by giving them pizza, which would be nice if the pizza wasn't sat on, thrown in the trash, and probably used as a doorstep to hell. Greg and Rowley get themselves out before they can get their first diagnosis of food poisoning and go skating. Greg isn't even on the rink for more than 2 seconds because he's already struggling to keep his balance. Geez, Greg, you couldn't learn to skate if it saved your life. He then knows Sister Scarlett Johnson of middle school before Chirag ruins it by going full Instagram stalker mode.
She's an all-star soccer player, has done professional modeling, and was her 6th grade class president. She moved here from Oregon because her father got a big promotion. They drive a hybrid SUV, live on the north side of town, in a cul-de-sac near the park. What? I googled her.
You're no longer relevant. You had your time. It's over. Please go away.
Greg imagines a scenario where he and Holly are seen entering a school like they're the Britney Spears and Justin Timberlake of 2011. Goodness, they really prepared everything for these two, red carpet and all. Greg gets snapped back to reality where Chirag creeps her the hell out. Dude, just go back to whatever school taught you how to turn every interaction into a crime scene. Greg forms a plan in his head where he's seen getting Holly. Rodrick, however, instantly pops that balloon and makes sure Greg's desires with Holly go down the drain. Frank, on the other hand, catches Susan high on sat-on pizza and nostalgia from the 80s and tries not to associate himself with her, which does not go according to plan. Greg keeps his plan on seducing Holly when the time for slow dancing begins. Greg is about to make his first move when Rodrick says otherwise, because if he didn't, he'd just be an oily background character with no purpose. Greg and Rowley are about to get obliterated by skate killers when Susan embarrasses Greg in the worst way possible by letting him know his daddy's coming to help him. I wouldn't blame Greg for wanting to die in this moment. If it were me, I would run away and never be seen again. It doesn't get much better for Greg as he tries to hit his homeless punk-looking brother and faceplants straight into a little girl's cake. The ear-grating Queen of Crab calls vengeance on poor Greg before we get a short glimpse of all the girls pounding him to the ground. So from this point onward, you're not going to see a vintage type of style in the movie. And the reason I say this is that I completely forgot to add it in when I was editing parts of this video. So my apologies on that. Greg's explaining to us on why having brothers is the most overrated thing ever. He explains Manny's crippling addiction to tattletaling while Rodrick uses him as his own personal vacuum cleaner for sucking up dirty socks and trauma. That must be fun. Manny is on the floor eating German-fested floor Cheerios when Susan puts a temporary stop to everyone's schedule to announce the shocking revolution of Mombucks, which is basically Monopoly money, but with more manipulation. She explains that every time they don't fight with each other, they'll earn said buck. In other words, they're getting paid to act like they don't hate each other. Then again, is that really gonna change anything? Susan also states that they can cash out, and Rodrick immediately takes his first load of cash. Guess he doesn't know what self-control is. Greg arrives at the school where he undeservingly gets called out by the teacher for being related to Rodrick? Because apparently, if your DNA matches a local menace, you're automatically guilty. Rodrick wakes up and gets turned on by the phrase, sharing your talent, as he hears about the upcoming talent show. Susan remarks about how Rodrick promised to give Greg a drum lesson before we get a disturbing first look on Susan's imagination of things. I say disturbing because of how unrealistic it is. Greg and Riley go upstairs to find his Xbox 360 completely destroyed by Manny. Instead of being a responsible parent and punishing the red hair menace, Susan mommy cuddles him and doesn't do anything. Mother of the damn year. She even has the audacity to accuse him of hurting Manny.
What's going on? What did you do to him?
Nothing. He ruined my video game.
Now, you know what? You were the one person I didn't want to see today because I really want to slap you now.
He then imagines what it would be like to be in a family who actually loved him. Which would be nice, but does Greg not understand that this isn't a Disney movie? Riley dreams about going to India, cause of course he does. Chirag tells him his family's going on a business trip to said area, and Fregley makes sure to ask to bring him back a cobra, cause I guess he wants to get tapeworms or something. Rodrick stops by to pick up the two for $Mom, and the two have to take the offer whether they like it or not. Rodrick drives like a maniac as Greg and Riley get thrown around in a car and get their first diagnosis of brain damage. Greg also ends up getting sat on. Gross. Manny gives Greg a present to prove he's sorry, but it's less of a gift and more of a safety hazard with pricks everywhere. Like literal pricks. Greg's about to do the normal thing and just throw it out when his mom looks threatened to summon her son of any remaining humanity. Hey, if you're lucky, maybe you can stab Patty's eyes out or something. Greg has the idea of getting famous and has Riley lip sync whatever that song is.
Up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy.
That line has since aged like milk. Greg tells Riley to fall down on a chair, but we all know that any person who has a sense of awareness would bonk Greg in the head. Riley ends up being diddied by Manny's present and gets sent home. Susan expresses her disappointment of being lied to, which I say bullcrap. Greg promises to never lie again, which gets instantly broken. Why? Because you just can't be honest for the rest of your life without lying. That's like promising the box without hurting anyone. Oh wait. That's actually been done before. I forgot. Now for the church scene, I got one of my lovely subscribers to talk about it, and then following that up is another one of my subscribers talking about the party scene. Take it away, man.
Hello everyone, I'm 97Potatoes. Yes, that 97Potatoes if you're familiar with me. Here's a short commentary on the infamous church scene from the Rodrickrules movie, from a good old pal, the cartoon moment. So things already get off to a bad start when the Heffley family gets out of the car, because Manny points to a candy bar he left on his car seat, which Greg stupidly sat on, making his behind look like he had a bit of a poo-poo, as Manny put it. Rodrick smiles as he watches his brother humiliated. Frank tries to clean up the chocolate with possibly the most awkward father-son movement in the movie. The cleanup is to no avail, and honestly, Greg's crack looked even worse. Greg is obviously too embarrassed to go to church, but Susan says he must oblige. So their solution is to simply put a polka dot sweater around his belt. Still embarrassing, but hey, it's better than nothing. Oh, and Riley happens to be there, and he gives Greg an awkward smile as he walks by. I feel like anyone who is somehow friends with Greg would give him an awkward smile as they walk by. The service ends, and at this point, it seems everything is handy-dandy! But as foreshadowed by the smile earlier, Rodrick's satanic mind comes with a devilish prank. He steps on Greg's sweater, pulling it and exposing his chocolate-stained pants, ultimately making a girl call out attention to the incident. And then for some reason, Greg, instead of running the hell out of there, tries to redeem the situation by taking some of the chocolate from his behind and licking it, going, "See, it's not chocolate." Greg, imagine if someone came home covered in blood, they were questioned about it, and they went, "Oh no, this is obviously just, cranberry sauce," and then they ate some of it. Would that make the situation any better? Oh, so you're still eating something from your own crack, Greg, in front of everyone. And once Greg notices Rodrick's uncontrollable laughter, he pounces on him and they get into a huge fight, ultimately disgracing the church's name and probably getting them suspended. Frank has to pull them out by the hair while Susan goes an entire rant on their destructive sibling rivalry. So it ends with the brothers grounded during the weekend. They can no longer go to River Raft, or whatever it was called, and they have to stay at the house so that they can resolve their issues. So, keep in mind, within 3 minutes, Manny soiled Greg's church pants, Frank's freakish behind tried to clean his son's pants, Rodrick humiliated Greg in front of the whole church, and ended with an explosive fight that ended with both brothers grounded during the weekend. I have never seen anything this dramatic happen over a chocolate bar. Except SpongeBob, but at least it didn't,
Hello, it's me.
K-Dog, the Poppy Playtime YouTuber. So basically, I'm going to be talking about Rodrickrules, the party scene. So basically, in this, like, Greg and Rodrick are supposed to be bonding, Riley's over. The parents and Manny have gone to, like, this place, like, I can't remember exactly. But basically, Rodrick invites all his friends, and so they have a party. And so basically, he tries to, like, walk Greg into the basement. Now, in the original books, he stays in the basement, which I don't really like because, you didn't get to see the party. But basically, in the movie, Greg and Riley are able to escape the basement and they enjoy the party. And then they basically celebrate, they enjoy the party, they drink lots of, like, thank you, Cartoon Movement, for having me on to this. And that will be me. This is K-Dog, and I'll see you guys in the next Poppy Playtime video.
Now, this is where things begin to go a bit haywire for both Greg and Rodrick. They both wake up to find their house completely destroyed. No The two frantically clean the whole place faster than Minecraft sweats do for speedruns. They eventually get the whole place cleaned up faster than Diddy's baby oil fetish being exposed, and everything's all good, right? Well, almost. They both noticed the bathroom door with rodrickrules sprayed in permanent marker, like a desperate scream they couldn't erase. With the two barely having any time left, Greg has the solution of just replacing the door altogether. Although unlike the previous door, this one don't got a lock on it, which is basically gonna be the massive giveaway to their little secret party. Frank and Susan arrive home, and despite Frank's initial skepticism and his daily meltdown about one of his figures, dude treats his toy collection like a religion. Everything is a-okay for the two. Mission passed. For now, at least. The next morning comes around, and Greg's in full stalker mode, watching Holly like a deranged John Cena fan. Chirag appears out of nowhere, ready to burn Greg's bridge of self-esteem like it's his last chance to be relevant. Instead of trying to get back at him, Greg comes with the perfect solution to just ignore him, which doesn't sit well with the brown Karen stain. Rowley's invited to a sleepover at Greg's house, and Rodrick threatens to make Rowley crap himself as he stands there, looking like a scared fat kid waiting for Santa to leave him with a bag of shame and PTSD. Frank notices the lock missing, but he thinks his schizophrenia is just playing up. Rodrick apparently can't stay for dinner, saying he's having a private session with the new member of his band. Susan and Frank just say screw off and let the homeless heroin high My Chemical Romance reject in their own house. He invites himself to dinner and eats like an absolute slob as he explains the life of being a rock star, which is more of the life of being the next in line for homelessness. Greg and Rowley set up for the sleepover, and instead of just watching age-appropriate movies, cause Rowley couldn't even keep a straight face from a frickin' jump scare made by a 4-year-old, they decide to watch The Foot and... Wait, I got a special guest? VP Awesome is taking over? Alright, take it away, man!
Now when we talk about the iconic diaryofawimpykid rodrickrules, probably one of my favorite scenes from the movie was when Greg and Riley was watching this horror movie called The Foot.
We shouldn't be here. We just can't let ourselves into a stranger's home.
The place is empty. Nobody's gonna mind.
Mind you, they said we can't let ourselves in a stranger's home. First of all, the fact that y'all even here, that tells me y'all got here by car. So you telling me you was driving on the road, you stopped and went into a stranger's home. Like, hey, maybe we should stay there. It just shows how trash this movie is.
Look at his face.
What happened to his foot?
The Foot. Look at Rowley, y'all. This dude Rowley is so terrifying.
I'm telling you, it's nothing. It's just your imagination. Did you just kick me?
Bro, look at this dude's face, bro. Ain't no way you should be screaming like that, bro.
You know, you really need to cut your toenails.
What was that?
Like, bro, you know what's crazy? As a kid, and this is embarrassing to say, I ain't gonna lie, bro. This junk kind of scared me as a kid, bro. I don't know why. But I mean, I guess that's understandable as a kid. But I'm like, bro, a foot, dude. A foot. This a foot right now. See, this is my foot right now. I shouldn't be scared of this. Hey, man, I know my foot was ashy. None of y'all boys be flaming me in the chat, man. This was my favorite scene from diaryofawimpykid.
Rodrickrules! The next day rolls around, and Manny is showing Susan his jumping addiction when she tries to use the bathroom. I think I know where this is going. Susan questions Rodrick later that night about the lack of a lock on the door. Rodrick acts like he has amnesia and has no idea what a lock even is. When Susan isn't able to get the truth out of him, she goes to Greg, who spills the beans so quickly you'd think he'd been training for it. Greg, although, does end up lying a bit, saying that it was a band rehearsal rather than an actual party. Greg manipulates his mom into thinking their friendship will dissolve for good as she tells. Instead of trusting her instincts, she lets Greg off, which earns him Rodrick's respect, which, to Greg, is platinum-level conning. Over the next few weeks, Rodrick shows Greg the ways to an easy life, which in other terms is basically setting Greg up for a lifetime of being a lazy, self-entitled taker who thinks doing nothing is a strategy. Rodrick notices Greg having to do the 100 years assignment, so what does he do? He just gives him his own paper, cause that is the #1 way you're destined to fail school. Speaking of school, Chirag is back again trying to make everyone notice him like he's a VIP of the school. He tries to bribe Riley with the warm, delicious buttermilky corn dog, and Riley almost gives in and ruins the whole joke. But then, just in time, Greg comes in to save the day, and takes Chirag, the bad guy, away. Greg's over here acting like he's the hero of a bad comedy, but at least he's not the one looking like an idiot. Yet. Although things don't end positively for Greg, because reading his brother's paper ends up making him a bigger fool than Chirag. Greg tells Rodrick his plans sucked, and Rodrick, in true Rodrick fashion, adds the hidden context that the paper Greg read was the same one that started Frank writing all his papers for him. Wish you had said that before, you greasy hair dumbnut. Next day rolls around, and Greg attempts to pass a note to his love model, Holly, but it backfires so hard and gets sent to Patty, who calls Greg out and makes him the laughingstock of the classroom. It's like Greg's trying to pass a note, but instead ended up starting a flash mob of embarrassment. The next day at school rolls around, and Greg opens his locker to find a supposed note from Holly, telling him to meet in the art room before lunch. Greg stupidly falls for this, because obviously, who wouldn't believe Holly wouldn't want to meet him? It turns out it was Chirag who set this whole plan up to get back at Greg, making him a part of his personal sitcom of failure. To make matters worse, Holly accidentally refers to Greg as Fregally, and even the coach rubs it in deeper. We'll see him again soon. Rodrick decides to take Greg out later that night, where they attempt to speedrun diabetes and run away from Greg's demon coach. Yeah, the one that chose to rub the salt in Greg's wounds earlier. The night ends on a good note, or does it? Now for this particular scene, I got another one of my subscribers to talk about it, so take it away. Again.
Allow me to handle this, the cartoon movement. My name is Victor Star Productions, and I like the Diary of the Wimpy Kid series, but hated the film series' portrayal of Rodrick. So, what am I gonna do? Well, rip him to shreds, of course. The kids then arrived just as Dad was trying to show his army men photos. Things were going good until the dad realized the kids spilled the beans.
Rodrick, can you explain what you're doing in this photo?
That's not me.
Okay. How about these?
We then get a scene where the dad reveals the truth in a vein to that one episode of Totally Spies where the spies get totally busted. Damn, no wonder why women know more than men. Because if I were the parents of the Gregheffley family's kids, I would have dialed 911 immediately. F you, Rodrick.
Greg and Rodrick end up grounded and have to spend the weekend with their grandpa, whose mindset was automatically set back to the 1950s, aka a time when men were men, toxicity was fashionable, and when racism was just a hobby. Greg claims this is his worst downfall yet, which is impressive considering his entire life is basically a crime scene. Grandpa Heffley's pastime consists of stalking people through his TV. Good thing kids don't live here. Greg is so bored out of his mind that he just wants to die. Grandpa drags his 2 grandsons down to the game room, which is somehow even more boring than stalking people. As Greg is explaining the most confusing punchline/joke, Rodrick uses that to his advantage, and well, I'll let you see for yourself.
That is hilarious, Grandpa. I'll read another one, Greg.
Greg is about to devise his revenge arc when Holly's presence turns that off on the spot. She apologizes to Greg for calling him Fregally, and Greg plays it cool. I didn't even notice. Uh-huh. Sure, buddy. The two relate over having siblings, old ones who've made it their sole purpose to become your personal devil, and young ones who would trade your life for a cheese stick and no remorse. I swear Manny has the same dead eyes as a child from the Almond. Things are finally starting to look up for Greg. Or are they? Rodrick mocks Greg for having feelings for Holly in his diary and makes sure to give it to her. and probably the whole entire retirement center. He runs off with the diary, and it's so important to Greg that he doesn't even bother changing into some clothes. Gross! He's about to get the diary back, but not before he mistakes himself into the ladies' room. Oh, the hell you're about to receive, Greg. The women find him quickly and threaten to turn him into things I don't even want to imagine. Greg escapes with his life and half his dignity, just in time for Rodrick to whip out the VHS tape of him running in his underwear. It's the day of the talent show, and...
Whoa, cartoon movement. We're actually going to do this video without me?
Oh, snap. I completely forgot I assigned you this part. Carry on, then.
Hello, did you forget you assigned me the most important part? The talent show scene, aka Rodrick's big moment. Let's set the scene. Rodrick's been grounded harder than an EasyJet flight during a thunderstorm. But Greg somehow cuts a deal to get him back in the talent show. And somehow, this all leads to this. The band, Loaded Diaper. The song, Exploded Diaper. The vibe, we've had way too many energy drinks and we're not okay. But you know what? It works. Poetry. Shakespeare could never. Rodrick goes full beast mode on those drums, acting like it's his only chance to avoid working at Uncle Gary's, I don't know what Uncle Gary does, Uncle Gary's car wash for the rest of his life. Yes, it's dumb, it's loud, it probably violates at least 3 noise ordinances and 2 basic hygiene standards. But it's glorious. He goes too far, sure, but somehow we still love him.
I just wanted to say that you getting Mom to let me play last night was really cool.
Oh, that's brotherly love right there. Passive-aggressive, barely sincere, and probably followed by a wedgie.
Now, get out. Do this.
But from Rodrick, that's as much affection as you can pretty much expect. And that, dear viewers, is why Rodrick rules. It's not just a movie title, it's a lifestyle, it's a vibe. It's Devon Bostick, king of teenage eyeliner and chaotic energy. We salute you.
So to state the obvious, Rodrick was an absolute piece of sweaty, greasy crap throughout the entire movie. He embarrassed his brother every chance he had and almost never got punished for it. He threw a party without his parents' permission and tried everything to hide the obvious missing lock on the bathroom door. Even when his mom found out about the missing lock, he still acted like he had no idea what she was talking about. When he was grounded and banned from entering the talent show, he returned to torment Greg worse than ever and even got a VHS tape of him in his underwear. Although we can't just put all the blame on Rodrick. Even though Greg was decent for the most part, he also hid the evidence at the party just as much as Rodrick and tried to get his way out of it. He lied to his mom on 2 occasions about using the computer for homework and watching appropriate movies at the sleepover. Both times resulted in Rowley getting physically and mentally scarred for life, and it heightened Jefferson's distaste for Greg. Chirag, on the other hand, creeped the hell out of Holly by stalking her online and making a fool out of himself when he tried to get everyone's attention. He was only able to get his reputation back by dressing up as Holly so that Greg would finally notice him. Susan and Frank were much better themselves, as Susan never once punished Manny for not only breaking Greg's Xbox, but for making a Diddy toy that violated Rowley. Frank had a huge meltdown about one of his figures misplaced, although I can justify his meltdown when he proved everyone correctly about the bathroom lock. So, Greg can get shredded for hiding the evidence at the party and lying to his mom 2 times, Susan and Frank can get shredded for not punishing Manny, who can also get shredded, and not at all punishing Rodrick besides the party. Chirag can get shredded for making himself the class clown, and I can't forget the titular character Rodrick, who was a jerk to everyone and gave Greg literal hell every chance he had. Rodrick can get shredded